Well, folks, it looks like Ish has officially hit the fan. As I warned you all in my last video, the leaders of Hamas are calling for a worldwide jihad on Friday, basically calling for a worldwide day of violence. And now, this news is breaking as I speak. The NYPD just ordered that every single officer on their payroll show up in uniform tomorrow, prepared for the worst. So in other words, they're preparing for something big. And apparently there's already been a few incidents in Brooklyn that they think may be linked to this Hamas threat. Meanwhile, police departments all around America are on high alert. Some private schools, some religious schools are even recommending that parents keep their kids out of school on Friday. They're recommending that certain churches don't open on Friday. Things are getting crazy. But, I've been trying to tell you all, I stress this so often that, we can't keep ignoring these problems going on around the world, because eventually they're going to make it to your doorstep. And that's what's happening here. A lot of people, they saw the chaos in Israel. They see the bombing of Gaza, and they feel so far removed from that violence. They feel so far removed from that conflict because we live over here in America, or some of you live in other various places in the world, and this stuff doesn't necessarily directly affect us at first. But now we're in a position where this may affect anyone, everyone. We have protests and fights already popping off in the streets of France, Australia, the UK, America, Canada, South Korea. I mean, places that you didn't even know existed are out here, and people are already getting violent in the streets. I have no idea what tomorrow may hold, but if they want to put out those warnings, I'm not going to sit here and ignore it. But I want to go ahead and dive right in and see what's going on up in New York. The war between Israel and Hamas entered its sixth day on Thursday, and the loss of life and the scale of human suffering is raising tensions around the world and in New York. The NYPD is planning a show of force around the city on Friday, which is a posture similar to other occasions when there is the possibility of civil unrest. The department has canceled vacations and instructed all members to show up in uniform. All uniformed members of the service are to perform duty in the uniform of the day, effective immediately and until further notice. All uniformed members of the service in every rank will perform duty in the uniform of the day and be prepared for deployment. Demonstrations have been loud, angry, and there have been acts of violence already all across America. But the potential for an attack by local Hamas sympathizers is something that the NYPD commanders cannot afford to ignore. We're trying to make sure that violence doesn't manifest on the streets of New York City, said Department Rebecca Weiner with the NYPD Intelligence and Counterterrorism Division. Weiner says officers are monitoring online postings by radical groups, some of whom are calling for a global day of rage Friday in support of the Palestinians in Gaza. Large deployments of uniformed officers are already hitting the streets, with more to take up positions on Friday. There's the part that you see, which involves a lot of officers. Some of our counterterrorism officers are critical response command folks who are high visibility patrols, heavy weapons armed and trained, responding to locations throughout the city. Schools, houses of worship, sensitive locations, Weiner said. And then there's the intelligence side, which is the part that you don't see. the online monitoring for threats and making sure that we can anticipate whether there's any reflection back to the city based on the overseas events. Governor Hochul called it a personal choice to pull children from religious schools or to skip synagogue Friday night in response to the call for pro-Palestinian protest. I understand the very high human desire to protect your family and your kids. With that information going on, it's something everybody will individually have to decide. Meanwhile, there were 3 incidents in Brooklyn on Wednesday night. Police are investigating as they believe it is highly possible that they are motivated by the war and the threats from Hamas. So, I've been saying the whole time that this is a conflict that's a very complex situation. It's a conflict that's been raging for years, well before I was born, and I believe it will still be going long after I'm gone and after you're gone. So I've really tried to do my best to stay as neutral as possible, while at the same time calling out, gross acts like, paragliding into a freaking rave in the middle of the desert and killing innocent women and kidnapping them. You have to call things like that out. But make no mistake about it. It's gotten to the point that it doesn't matter what side you think you're on. It doesn't matter what side you choose. It doesn't matter what side your peers try to pressure you into taking. The reality is it doesn't matter, because now it's gotten to the point where it can affect anyone. And to just be brutally honest, if I'm going to pick a side, I'm picking my side. I'm picking the side of the people in America that don't want anything to do with this nonsense. So if your religious war spills over to America to where innocent Americans are being harmed because of your beef, because of your fights, that's when we're really going to have a problem. That's how I feel. And people need to understand, you can sit here and be pro-Israel, and you could be pro-Palestine. I'm pro-Hamas. I'm pro-this. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. When a terrorist attack is carried out on American soil and you get blown to smithereens, do you think they care if you have an Israeli or a Palestinian flag in your Twitter profile? No, they do not. So as everyone's, we need to side with Israel, or we need to side with Palestine, we need to side with these people. Everyone's busy picking sides when in reality the side that you need to choose is the side of your own. Everyone's fighting over, we should support them, we should support them. Meanwhile, we're all at threat of getting blown off the face of the earth because of this conflict. No one wants to stop and talk about that. Instead of arguing about what side you're choosing, realize that this violence is spilling over to our country. This violence that has nothing to do with me or you, this conflict that has nothing to do with me or you, is now affecting us. So instead of all of us in America fighting over which side to choose, maybe we should choose the side of Americans and not the side of these people who are fighting in foreign countries for things that we don't even understand, and to be frank, most of us don't even care about. Let's just be real. Because it's getting sickening watching people fight online. And then if you don't choose a certain stance or a certain side on social media, people get angry. I've had people angry in my comment section. Well, what about what Israel did? Or what about what these people did? At the end of the day, you have to make decisions based upon what affects you. And at the end of the day, like I said, I think we have now been thrown into a position to where we can't just sit here and argue over which side to take when there's parents across America who can no longer feel safe sending their kids to school tomorrow. Oh, you want to argue on social media about being pro-Palestine or pro-Israel, but there's kids in America who can't go to school tomorrow because of something that's going on over in Gaza and Israel. Police departments all around America are calling in officers who were supposed to be off that day. Oh, now you got to work. Because we think there's a possibility that someone's going to carry out an attack here in America. We got people who can't go to church Friday because they're scared about an attack here in America. That's the reality of the situation. So instead of focusing on which side should you choose your own side, folks. Because the people in Israel and the people in Gaza and the people of Palestine and the people in Iran and the people in Pakistan, all of these folks ain't going to give a damn if something happens to you tomorrow during the nation or the worldwide jihad. No one's going to care. No one's even going to know your name. So instead of fighting about picking sides, choose your own sides and be prepared for what's to come. Because we are entering into a new age to where we here in America cannot feel as comfortable as we used to. Sure, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when we were going to war in Iraq, you can go and have your pro-war, anti-war protests, and you really didn't worry about too much. Those days are gone. This it's really sad that we've reached this point, and I think this just serves as a wake-up call to people that no longer can we sit by and think that these conflicts overseas aren't going to affect our lives, because they are in many ways. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all soon in the next video.